and we're just gonna go live on Facebook. I'm not gonna scream or anything. Let me see here. Preparing the live streaming right now. And live anyway. And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Tony Farah here with Coldwell Banker. Yet again, another day, another beautiful day to be alive, excited, and ready to make it happen again. Today, I have the pleasure to have with me an old friend, a good friend. His name is Johnny Helmberger. I've met Johnny years ago, and he's here today to really discuss to us about growth and crisis. His background is in growth strategies and insight as a coach for his line of work. So like me, he is an independent contractor. And yes, his work has been impacted by this COVID-19. We're about to learn what he's doing differently. But first and foremost, welcome, Johnny, to my show, to my live video, to my whatever. I'm super excited to have you on, man. And just to give you a little bit of insight who the audience is, it's going to be families like myself and yours. It's going to be probably a bunch of realtors who are friends with me nationwide, maybe around the globe as well. It's more or so going to be families with special needs as well watching. So from a content perspective, you know, as you discuss, you know, how to develop growth in crises like these, kind of like food for thoughts for you. But first and foremost, tell us who Johnny is.
Sure. Well, Tony, it's always great to see you. So even when it's virtual, it's still good. So yeah, I for those of you that know Minneapolis, I'm in Tangletown. I'm a single father to two wonderful kids. I've got a beautiful 13-year-old daughter. It's actually a little bit scary, to be completely honest. And I've got a brilliant almost 9-year-old son. An entrepreneur, as Tony mentioned, an adventurer of sorts. And obviously, I've been working with people around strategies and insights for growth in crisis, as he mentioned. The last several years, I've focused almost exclusively on working with founder-run companies. So founders and executives of businesses that maybe their crisis takes the form of being stuck, or maybe there's something that's come up in their climate that's created some challenges. So crisis appears in a variety of ways. And so it's not just what we all are dealing with right now. It comes up all the time. And sometimes it's as simple as a perpetual challenge that exists, that for some people might see it as a challenge. Others, it could be an opportunity to have a breakthrough or have a transformation or do something to make what was a challenge into something beautiful. And Tony, you and I, we've talked a lot about that, even with your business.
Right.
You and your family and your business have kind of intertwined around autism. So, a lot of people that have had to deal with that find that to be incredibly challenging. You've taken that and turned it into an opportunity to serve the community on a local scale, but even a national, maybe even global scale. And so for me, I think of you as an autism expert now. So if I ever have an issue where I'm trying to figure out how to deal with it, I'm going to call you. You know?
Oh, thank you so much, Johnny. Hey, I'm humbly accept that, but trust me, any parent out there with such a passion would do exactly the same like I'm doing. So thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, well, you should, absolutely.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I mean, for a couple of reasons. I mean, the other side of it too is that with that challenge that you have, you made it into a niche for who you are, what you do in a business sense. And so people that might be looking for a home that have challenges, family challenges, that maybe it's autism, maybe it's something else.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've created a business around that. So it's not just a challenge. It's actually, now it's flipped, and it's also become a livelihood. I'm not saying it's not a challenge, but I mean, we don't build character without challenge anyway.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So that's an example of, a personal challenge that's a business, but even if it's a business challenge, it just presents an opportunity for a pivot. And it could be a small business, it could be a big company.
Yeah, totally.
The world's a changing place.
Amen for that. You could say that a million times. It is a choice, right? So I've chosen that route, to take it, and, I've developed a brand around it. There's no question about it. You mentioned COVID-19 and how things, you can build, I don't want to say wealth, but you could really maintain growth in crisis, for the businesses that you were working with, it had to get impacted with this COVID-19. The question I have is, how did it impact it, and really what are some of the different measures you're taking really to sustain your business? Because as an independent contractor, as an entrepreneur, we always kind of like, okay, what's next? But, people are pulling the plugs. Have you found a way to kind of maintain and sustain your business?
Well, this COVID-19 topic is a conversation topic that is inescapable. But yes, I mean, there's a variety of ways that it's impacted business for people that I work with, which obviously then impacts me. But it's even there's an impact, even personal, that I've had, and a lot of people have had. On one hand, it almost seems like there's been almost like a blanket of anxiety that's fallen over the globe. And so people have found themselves in situations where now they are sitting with their thoughts because they don't have the privilege of all these distractions that we've had, which is part of the reason why people are, watching so much Netflix, because anything they can do to not be sitting with their thoughts. And so, I feel like, and, we can talk about that a little bit more in a little bit, but I would say that, I've had businesses that are brick and mortar that I've been working with, and they've been in situations where everybody's furloughed. Businesses are closed until, it's deemed safe to open them up again. So maybe that's next month sometime. Who knows? We don't really know what that's going to look like for sure. And that right there by itself, the fact that nobody really knows what tomorrow is going to bring. I mean, we never really did know, but for a lot of us, we took for granted that tomorrow is going to be just like today. And that, we're going to be able to go into the office tomorrow and that sort of a thing. And business as usual was going to continue as long as we stayed productive and efficient for the foreseeable future. But obviously we can't control everything. And so now we find ourselves in some precarious situations. Other businesses that had already been to some extent virtual are almost 100% virtual now. So, I would say the overarching observation is that anybody that can create a new line of business or even build on an existing digital line of business they have, where they have the ability to work virtually and to make more of a practice out of that, to make more of a business out of that. That's something that if you can make that a profitable channel for yourself, that's not going to go away when, things start to return to how they used to be. I'm not saying that they're going to return to what they were, but even if they did, why would we not want to have a virtual line of business if it's, more flexible for us if we can do it from anywhere. So
I see a new norm being developed. There's no question about it, because time, we always talk about time as being of the essence, right? And I feel like from my perspective, instead of being 2-3 hours on the road, I've gained those 2-3 hours, and those have turned into a productive line of work for me. So to me, that has become the new norm, and I can only imagine other people that have been really virtually 100%, their line of business is probably going to double or increase, better yet, right? And then those that have been more on the road, they're going to kind of rethink their strategies. And look at the roads right now. If you get out, I mean, we've got cleaner environments. Gas prices are so darn cheap and affordable, right? And I feel like, that this might be the new norm as we get slowly getting out of this pandemic. That's just the way I see it.
Right. And I mean, there is an opportunity that we have right now, whether we have a business or not. Going back to the fact that now we have some time to be with our thoughts,
right.
Which is maybe better for some than for others, But
yeah.
So my experience has been so far is that the demand has changed because businesses are furloughing employees and maybe even closing their businesses temporarily. And so I found myself doing more pivot strategies.
Okay.
So my business has started to focus more on just that, pivot strategies, not just for business, but for personal situations as well. Now that people are home, maybe they themselves are furloughed, maybe they were laid off, and they're not really sure what they're going to do next. And so, there's a lot of opportunity right now that people didn't have before, where this might be an example of a challenge where, if I just got laid off, I'd feel like that's a challenge.
Right.
But there's also an opportunity with that, where now I get to actually go into what I'm feeling and experience some new transformation and have my own personal breakthroughs.
Yeah. I tell you, pivot is a new word that I've taken on. So that's kind of, I used to, we're all used to like the shift of the mind, and then everything else will shift with you, the gift of the shift. But right. Pivot has been the new norm, the new word that I've been kind of accustomed to right now. You mentioned opportunity. Can you take us a little deeper into, somebody that may let's just kind of see if we could go in the future. Can you maybe just pick a scenario where it's landed itself on your surface, and take us deeper into that opportunity? How would you take them from where they've been to where you can see them? You could talk about my niche if you want, but just for lack of I don't know what's out there that could really surface.
So yeah, I'll tell you that with the people that I've been talking to, I mean,
yeah.
Like there's such a dramatic variety in what people are experiencing, what the situations are. And I mean, there are some people that feel like, oh, this isn't a big deal and it's going to be over in a couple of weeks, I'll be back to work next month or whatever. And that's great to be positive like that. But, that's not necessarily the strongest strategy, because what if you're not back to work next week? And if you're counting on that, maybe you should have, another strategy too.
Yeah. Well, plan B, plan A, plan B, right?
Right. So. Right. But, just to kind of go high level, to your point, we could talk about you a little bit. And so, some of this might not necessarily be you exactly, but, we can imagine that, somebody's going into real estate.
Yeah.
And, here in Minnesota, I remember hearing a statistic at one point where there was something like 7 real estate agents for every homeowner. That sounds like pretty tough odds, to be able to go out and carve out business. And so, that means that the average agent is going to be struggling to get business. And then if you take that average situation to be struggling to get business, and they also have a family home situation that's got its own challenges, that sounds like double trouble to me, like on the surface, right?
Yeah.
So that might be how most people look at it. They might say, oh, Tony, I'll pray for you, buddy. Best of luck. I hope that all works out for you. And they'll walk away, and maybe they'll pray for you. But so that, in this case, you and I, some of the conversations we've had, you've really done a good job of realizing that when people are looking for homes that have similar family challenges, that it's not the same as looking for a home as a couple that doesn't have kids yet, or a single person. It's a totally different experience. And there's a lot of considerations that that aren't even on the mind of a real estate agent in a representation situation with a family that's got special needs. And I don't know why there haven't been more agents that have kind of peeked up their head just like you have, but I thought it was brilliant that you were able to come to have the observation that what might appear to some of those passer buyers that it's maybe a strength or a chink in the armor or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's a strength for you, and you've made it into something big. And we continue to have conversations about how you can grow that, and it's something that makes you an expert beyond just being able to show homes. And so you've made yourself a resource, and you've made a point to consider what your resources are. And one of the big things that I work with everybody on, whether it's the founder of a company or it's a person that lost their job or whatever's going on, there's a phenomenon, I call it limiting beliefs. And you very easily could have believed that you've got some really tough challenges, and oh man, your life is your life is tough.
Yeah.
And you could have really held on to that. And I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying that what some people might think is a curse could actually be a blessing. And so just changing the belief around a particular life circumstance is like a really big thing. And I see limiting beliefs like crazy, like almost every conversation, there's at least one that comes up. And so just like in the insights part of, my business, I help people realize where their limiting beliefs are, so that I'm not necessarily showing them, maybe I'll show them a reframe and suggest some potential reframes. But the point is for them to kind of find for themselves where they've got some beliefs that don't evidently serve any good purpose at all, and that they just have them because they've always had them, and it's time to lose them and have something else in place of it.
Definitely not today, in today's environment, to have that limiting belief or to wake up with negativity, or not to really think towards the future, because we will come out of this, it's just in a matter of time. I think those are excellent points. These are really simple, in times of crisis, and how you can kind of stay focused on growth, but yet some of them are so profound that to the normal average person, they may overlook them. Right? All right.
Yeah, no, it's true. So, I mean, my experience has been that people that have challenge or a crisis or whatever, they find ways to cope with it. Sometimes it's just finding distractions. I mean, there's been times in my past where I found that I was a master of distraction. And so me to be able to begin my own transformation meant that I had to let go of those things. And, whether it's going out too much, or maybe it's watching too much Netflix.
I call these variable cost versus the fixed cost. So in times like these, this is the focus should shift. Like, okay, these are our fixed costs. There's no way around them. These are our variable costs. Hey, mark off, check off, and that's one way that I feel like a lot of the viewers right now are wondering, okay, let's just pretend, you've got a CEO of a nonprofit watching this, or you've got a family that has lost their jobs and they're having to really rely on unemployment right now. What would, how would you add value to these people? How would you, what is one message, maybe one or two nuggets that you could maybe share with them that kind of gives them hope that, you could definitely plan for it, hope for the best kind of thing, but plan for the worst, or the other way around?
Yep. Okay. So, what I was about to say is my experience is there's been generally there's three kinds of people, and there's the people that have the challenge and they just kind of get stuck in it, and that's where they live their life,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's a lot of suffering there. Maybe they resist it, which generally you don't break through and you just resist it. You kind of have to go into it and really explore what it is to be able to break through it. And then there's people, my people, where those are the people that look at this as an opportunity to have a breakthrough, and they want to embrace it. They want to go into it as much as they can to break through it and experience their transformation and start to have growth, whether it's, whatever that means, right? I mean, it might mean that, you, in your personal life, your relationships are richer, or it might mean that, your profitability per customer is better. Like growth can be different depending on the situation, right? But, I would say that I think what appeals probably to the audience greatest right now, because, we're all kind of stuck at home, is to find quiet space. So if there's people that haven't done that yet, that don't have a quiet space yet, I would say that's the number one thing that everybody needs to do. So right now, obviously, I'm sitting in a quiet space, so I found it, right? But if I had my kids right now, it wouldn't be a quiet space. So I need to find a different quiet space. So the point is, there are some people that are stuck in a house, and they're in there with their family, and it's just wild. So it's really important to find a space where you can feel grounded and you can have some peace and quiet. Once you have that, what you can do is you can breathe deliberately and just relax, just breathe deeply and slowly, not shallow breaths, but like really meaningful breaths. And in doing that, notice your thoughts, and you'll find that when you do that, that you are not your thoughts, that your thoughts are just something that's happening, and you'll find the anxiety of this moment that we're in will just start to fall away. And that's a really great place to start. I think that's something that anybody can do. And I would say one more gold nugget following that I think everybody should do, which also would probably be best in a quiet space. And really, if you can't find a quiet space, then take a walk and go sit on a park bench or something. But journal. That's the last thing I was going to say. In the journal, when you're doing that, maybe you do it first thing in the morning, maybe you do it before you go to bed, whenever you happen to be able to do it. There's kind of 5 areas that I like to focus on when I tell people to journal. And the first thing is, who do you want to be? So like right now, if we feel stuck, we don't want to be stuck. So let's not focus on that. Let's focus on what we want. Who do we want to be? So write who you want to be, but write it in present tense, and write it with a grateful tone. Like, I am so happy and grateful that I am the super guru of the world, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Or, thank you that I am. So write who you want to be. Then focus on, there's 4, what I call 4 pillars to life mastery. Focus on what you want from a spiritual life standpoint, what you want physically. So, I'm so happy and grateful that I have a super immune system and I'm never going to get the virus.
Totally, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm fit, even though the gyms are closed, like whatever,
Hey, I've got my gym upstairs, so I do it at least once a day, sometimes twice a day.
Well, I'll put my mask on and I'll be right over after this.
Yeah, there you go.
Then there's wealth. Obviously that's another kind of precarious situation right now. People don't really know where income is going to be coming from in the near future. So, kind of put it out there and write it down, write what you want, and write in present tense. All this stuff's in present tense, and it's all being written with a grateful tone, grateful attitude. And then the last thing is psychological. So, thank you that I know what I want and I get what I want out of life. I know my purpose and I live it, things like that. So journaling. So the first thing was find your quiet space. And if you really can't have your quiet space in your home, go outside. It's starting to get nice out. Go find a park bench where you can then do your breathing and your journaling. But you know, like you want to make sure you're doing this meaningful breathing while you're doing your journaling. So those are all things that anybody can do. I mean, I'm available to talk. I mean, I understand that this is like right now, the opportunity to have these breakthroughs and these transformations coming out of the crisis that everybody's exposed to right now. I mean, it's a right now thing. So I've made a point to make myself more available to have those conversations. And I'm actually working on a separate website just for that. It's not live yet, but
okay. What's the address in case the viewers want to jot it down? We'll add it in the comments as well for any reference.
So the new website's not live yet, but what I do have right now is helmberger.us. So www.helmberger, it's my last name, HELMBERGER.us. And it's a really basic website. If you just scroll down to the bottom of the page, it says book a conversation. Just hit that. And if you can book the time, I'll be there. We'll talk. And, you know, if you can't find your quiet space or whatever, at least, you know, go for a walk and you know, we'll talk on the phone or something. But, you know, I'm making a point right now because, you know, the time to make myself available to help people with this is now. So that's what I'm doing.
And this is how, folks, this is how I start my day every single morning. You start with gratitude. And you know what? You need to be strong. Because this is really the storm that's passing by, and it will be over soon before you know it. We hope. We pray every day. So, Johnny,
even if it's not, hopefully this is going to be what carries you further, carries you higher, and carries you through your next breakthrough.
Totally. I feel like it's bringing more people closer, yet virtually. So, buddy, any last thought? Any last thoughts on your mind?
I don't think so. It's great to see you, Tony.
Yeah, great to see you.
You in your home gym.
Anytime, my friend. You just got to put the gloves on and the mask. I'll provide them if you don't have them. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, if you've got any value from it, great. If not, that's even great. If you have any questions, put them in the comment. I did tag Johnny onto this video so you can follow up with him directly. It was really a pleasure to see my buddy, my friend. And until the next one, stay tuned. I appreciate you joining us again, and we'll talk to you soon. Be safe, be healthy, and stay strong. We'll get through this eventually. Take care. All right. And let me